And welcome back to the Five Horsemen Sports Podcast. Chase the Horseman Horsley here, alongside with Gavin Bender, Stephen Reese, and Austin the Man Starks with us here. And guys, it has been far too long since we've been back here. And as everybody can see on our topic side, for those watching live on YouTube right now, go to Horseman Broadcasting on YouTube, and you'll be able to check out where we are live on right now. You also go onto the Facebook page of Horseman Broadcasting Entertainment to find out all the new stuff that's going on here. But we got a lot of fun things to talk about, but we're going to be breaking down the Big Ten, and the ACC today. The preseason top team, the last team. We're going to talk about the Purdue athletic director. He had some comments earlier today that we got to talk about. Then also got to figure out who's the best coach and the underrated and overrated teams in the Big Ten and the ACC. Boys, it's been a while since we've been able to talk, but football season, it's here.
It is here. About time, too.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for our next episode. I'm so glad it's here.
I've missed you guys a whole lot.
Yeah, Chase, I think it's going to be a more wide open season than in years past. It's going to be honestly out of all the 2020s, this could be the year where there's, maybe 10 to 15 teams that could be in the national championship race. So I'm really excited to see, especially all the big conferences. You have the SEC and the Big Ten that everyone's been talking about, but I don't sleep on the Big 12 and the ACC either. I think it's going to be very competitive this season.
Yeah, we're not only going to be talking about the Big Four, but also the first year of a brand new Pac 12. That's going to be so much fun to watch as well.
Yeah, there's going to be so much we're going to be talking about. We're going to be breaking down today the ACC and the Big Ten, but also we've got the Pac-12. We're going to talk about the Mountain West. We're going to talk about Sun Belt Conference. We're going to talk Big 12 SEC football. And this is all going to be coming your way. Now, we may not have each and every one of us each and every time, but we are going to have a podcast that's coming out each and every week now, and we're going to film a couple of them throughout the week as well. So you're going to be seeing them left and right pop off. And we're getting ready for our big college pick'em show. And we're already looking for guests on who wants to come and join us for the college pick'em show, because we say that is one of our absolute best shows that we put on here. Third year going. It's crazy that we're already going with year 3 on our college pick'em show. But the great support from each and every one of you guys really makes this thing happen and makes it tick. Well, without further ado, guys, it is time to talk about Big Ten ACC breakdown. And one of the biggest things is, what is the question in the Big Ten? Is it going to be Ohio State? Is it going to be Oregon? Is Indiana going to be the team that gets back up on top this year in our preseason top team spot? And who's going to be the last place finisher this year in the Big Ten? We'll start with the Big Ten, then we'll go down to the ACC after this one. So, Steven, start us off.
Yeah, Chase. The Big Ten has won the national championship the past 3 seasons, and all by 3 different teams. So it just shows you how much the Big Ten has dominated. And now the argument is the Big Ten the best conference? So that's going to be interesting to see. Is it going to be the SEC that's going to come out on top? Is it going to be the Big Ten for a 4th season in a row? I'm not sure, but I think this Big Ten race is going to be tight once again. I love Ohio State, love Oregon. I think Indiana will be up there again, but it's so hard to bet against Ohio State, and I think the Buckeyes are going to be really hungry this season because you lose to Indiana by a field goal, then you lose to Miami in an upset in the college football playoff quarterfinals at the Cotton Bowl. I just think Julian Sayin, Jeremiah Smith, and Bo Jackson, the big 3 of the Ohio State Buckeyes, I think they're going to be ready for revenge. They do host, I believe they do host Oregon this season. So I think that's going to really give them a lot more motivation. They also go to USC. Ohio State's got a really tough schedule. I get it. You got to play at Texas as well. But I still think, with that being said, the tough schedule in place, that's going to help guys like Julian saying, just continue to get the veteran experience that he will need going into the NFL and beyond. So I have Ohio State winning the Big Ten, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think.
I think it's going to be a lot closer as well, but, you know, it seems like Ohio State has the hardest schedule for the first 3 games out of any team. So that's going to be the big difference maker on that. All right, Gavin, what do you got in the Big Ten ACC or the Big Ten preseason top team?
Yeah, so Steve said there's not very many people, I guess, betting on Ohio State to lose, but count me in. I will be one of those. And exactly for why Steven said, they have the hardest schedule out of any of the top 6 teams in the Big Ten. They play a gauntlet. And what I'm about to say might sound hypocritical, but just hear me out. There is no way the AP poll doesn't sit Indiana #1 coming into the next season. They are clearly better on paper than they were last season, even though they lost the Heisman quarterback. I think their new quarterback's better than Josh Hoover, but every position got stronger in the entire team, and you kept every single coach. But with that being said, I do not see a world where the Oregon Ducks lose the Big Ten this year. I think top to bottom, full roster. You got the third best quarterback in the country with Dante Moore, and he is clearly. I have him as the best quarterback in the Big Ten. Some people might say Sand, but I am a Dante Moore believer. I think if he would have entered the draft this year, he would have went first overall. That's just how talented this kid is. And with that, I'm rocking the Ducks. Indiana second, Ohio State third, and that's my 3.
I like it, guys. I mean, 2 top teams. I mean, and especially teams that spend a lot of money. They have the roster. I mean, you can look at, Ohio State has Julian Sayin. They got Ennis. They got oh crap, who's number 4?
Jackson, no, not Smith.
Yeah,
Jeremiah
Jeremiah Smith. Sorry, they got Bo Jackson. They have a 25 million dollar roster, and that's always what you look at. Plus, with the coaching staff, Ohio State is a top coaching staff. Then you go and look at Oregon, also top coaching staff, top tier quarterback. But for the sake of the argument, I'm going to go. My top team has got to be Indiana this year, just to be different. I love the coaching structure. I love the culture that is at Indiana right now. I mean, just watching the coach, like in his interviews and everything, he's calm, cool, collective. Like everyone on the team loves him. The team rides for that guy. And I mean, like Gavin said, you got Josh Hoover now. You got Nick Marsh at receiver. I mean, you're upgrading. Yeah, you lost Mendoza and I think Amari Cooper was their receiver, but you're adding more. And I think Nick Marsh is going to be one of the best receivers in this country because of the system that he's in. As long as Hoover can upgrade and prevent turning the ball over like he did at TCU, he's going to be much, much better. So give me Indiana to be the top team.
All right, who do you have for your bottom team?
Bottom team, I feel like it's going to be a toss up between Purdue being awful and Rutgers and Northwestern and UCLA. Sorry, I'm taking all the bottoms team guys, but I mean it's the same rerun of teams that just, hey, we're gonna finish last this year. No, we're gonna finish last this year. I mean, their bottom teams are bad. But if you got to give me one, give me Rutgers.
Okay.
To finish in the bottom.
Yeah, for me, it's always a toss-up because Ohio State, they've just got a great program. Ryan Day has just done a fantastic job there. Then you even have the Oregon Ducks. As much as I want to say Oklahoma State will beat Oregon, it's not going to happen in that case. The Ducks have not a terrible preseason schedule, but it's not as heavy as Ohio State. With one of the biggest things that we've kind of talked about wasn't the Ohio State, actually was the Ducks that have one of the toughest schedule. Now it's not even right either. Who was the team that I'm thinking of that had the absolute worst schedule this season. Why am I blanking on
It's
this?
probably an SEC school, but Ohio State was ranked #1 in the Big Ten.
That's what it was. Yeah, it was Ohio State. There we go. Yeah, because they've got Texas on their radar. Um, they also have, obviously with Oregon, Michigan, that are going to be set up there. Indiana, I think Indiana, I don't know if they're going to be as good as what they were last year. Fernando Mendoza really helped out that team, but Kirk Cignetti is a really good coach, so I wouldn't be shocked to see Indiana up there in the top. I think Oregon's going to be that top team up there. I think Ohio State's going to finish in that second spot. I think we could see a Big Ten maybe rematch later on in the year for the championship. Could likely be. You just never know. But I think Oregon's going to be that top spot. And the worst spot, I'm going to honestly, and this one pains me to do because I'm actually a Purdue fan on the other side, but they just haven't done anything for the past few years. And we're going to talk about Purdue here in a second, and what the new athletic director was talking about Indiana. But Purdue's going to finish down at the bottom. I think we just all kind of feel that Purdue just hasn't been what they were, about 10 years ago when they were just so dominant, so good. I mean, granted, no national championships, but at least they were competitive in the Big Ten. That's no longer a thing. So I'm going to go Purdue down at the bottom. Any other thoughts before we jump into
Yeah, let me and
comments?
Steve slip in our bottom teams. We haven't yet. So we're gonna talk underrated and overrated, but I gotta defend UCLA and Northwestern that Austin was slandering. You're gonna see some improvement out of those schools, Austin. Just get ready. My worst team. Exactly why Austin said it. They lost all their star power. I'm gonna go with Michigan State. Nick Marsh was their best player. He's leaving for Indiana, and their quarterback, Chillis. He was all right. He was serviceable, and he's on his way to Northwestern. He's projected to outperform his stats from last season. So I expect big steps for everyone who left Michigan State because they could not retain any of their talent. They are in at least Purdue. Purdue's bad, right? But Purdue's going the right direction. They have a whole new coaching staff over the last 3 seasons. They got a new AD. Although he might say some dumb things, they're at least moving in a different direction. I can't say it's right yet, but a different direction. Michigan State is moving downward, and that is the only direction they're heading. I predict them to finish last.
Yeah, I went the boring route. I'm also going Purdue. It's crazy to think in 2023 they defeated Indiana, and I pull up the stat right before the podcast. The last 2 matchups against Indiana has outscored Purdue 122-3. So it just shows you, how upward Indiana has trended, and Purdue. Barry Odom enters his second year as Purdue head coach. He's just got a long ways to go, and I mean I could see them maybe possibly going 3-9, but then again, it's just the Big Ten is brutal. I mentioned that earlier. I think they could eventually be the best conference if the Big Ten gets another championship this season. But 1-11 in 2024 and 2-10 in 2025. Just I don't see Purdue going past last place again. So got the Boilermakers.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard thing for Purdue to get, any better than what they were. So, all right, we're going to move in down to
ACC?
Huh?
ACC before?
Oh yeah, ACC. You're right. I'm all over the place here. We should go to the ACC. You can
All right,
tell this
Steve,
is
do
our
your
first
first and last
podcast.
as well.
This is the first
Okay.
podcast back. So the ACC, we're gonna go Steve and Gav and Austin, the same order that we went through. Preseason, top team, and last team.
Yeah, Chase, for my ACC, I got the Miami Hurricanes. They lead the ACC with 9 preseason selections in the preseason All ACC. You have Darian Mensah at quarterback, obviously. You have Fletcher at running back. Malachi Toney was in 3 of those 9 preseason slots that Miami has at wide receiver, as part of the special team and all-purpose player. He was 2025 ACC Freshman of the Year, and you also just have a ton of experience. You have on the defensive side, especially, you have a defensive line that's very veteran. You have Armando Blount, you have Armando Blount. You have Ahmad Moten Sr. as defensive tackle. Uh, Justin Scott and Damon Wilson. Damon Wilson transferred in from Missouri, and I mean, he's a beast. He was all SEC second team. He's transferred in from Missouri. So you have a very veteran defensive line and just the entire defense. I think Miami I think the big difference is going to be, like I said, the defense. I mean, Darian Mensah, he could be a Heisman finalist, absolutely. But I think defense wins championships still. And they proved that last season. They proved that not only do they belong in the college football playoff over Notre Dame in the playoff rankings, but they belonged in the national championship. And that was an unbelievable run by Carson Beck. A lot of people really weren't high on him. He was a quarterback in college for a very long time, and he wasn't in the Heisman race or anything like that. But again, the defense just proved that, hey, we can make it to the national championship. And I think Miami's defense and the offense, I think the offense is going to make a big step, and the defense will be fine again. So I have Miami total domination in the ACC this season.
Last place, Steve.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Last place. This one may come as a shock for some of you, but I have North Carolina. I think I like Bill Belichick, have a lot of respect for him, did, a Hall of Fame career in the NFL, but they draw a really tough schedule. And just not a lot of experience. Billy Edwards Jr., he's not a bad quarterback. He did play one full season, but that was the only full season he's played until his senior year. And he's had some injury, he struggled with injury, but he's entering in with, like I said, one full year of experience. And I'm really, the offensive line is going to be a concern. There's really not a lot of experience on that side of the ball. And I like Demon June. Demon June's not bad in his freshman season as running back, but it's just a lot of it's just going to be, can North Carolina even get to 3 or 4 wins? It's just a gauntlet of a schedule. Belichick's just going to have a lot to prove here in the 2026 season. So I think North Carolina, I think they're going to be my last place team.
Yeah, well, I'll keep my first place team awfully short. I am also going with the U. Steve covered it. Their schedule is not too bad. They got the best wide receiver, quarterback in the conference. That should be enough for them. So let's talk about the worst, and I kind of go in a little more detail here. Steve was right. North Carolina, they are a bottom 4 lock in the ACC. Their win total right now sits at 4.5, and I'm pretty sure they play 2 of the easiest non-conference games possible. I think they're both FCS schools or tiny D1s. Another team that might shock you guys, Florida State. Do not be surprised. Win total 5.5 wins. I am hammering the under on that. They downgraded at quarterback and made no big pickups in the transfer portal. The third team, I think Wake Forest finally kind of escapes this little bottom tier, but we have Boston College. They struggle. Every time they have some success on offense, they get poached. They get poached as bad as any team you can think of. I mean, Oklahoma State, Tennessee, teams that produce talent but aren't the best, that are just losing players left and right. They're one of them. And the final bottom 4 team is Stanford. 3.5 wins is their line. They lost some talent to the draft, surprisingly. And then what they didn't lose to the draft, guess what? They lost in the transfer portal. So picking between those 4 is tough. Steve picked North Carolina. I'm going to chop them off. I want to go with Florida State, but I think their trench game is just too strong to get less than 4 wins. So I'm going to take a gamble and go with Boston College to finish as last in the ACC. On to you, Austin.
Top team's got to be Miami. They got the payroll out there. They got the talent, and I don't know how many times we talked on our Pick'em show last year when we were talking about the Duke game about Darian Mensah. What numbers are he going to put up? And we were usually wrong, which was sad. But now he's got a video game offense. The offensive line is a huge plus, and then you got guys like Pringle and Kadarius Toney and all their skill guys. It's going to be head above everybody. They might make it back to the Natty, but they're going to steamroll the ACC. Worst team, I gotta go North Carolina. I mean, I watched a couple of North Carolina games last year just to see like what Belichick was doing, like how the team looked. And oh my God, it was awful. The TCU game was abysmal last year when they opened up. It was just god awful. So give me them for my bottom team in that ACC.
Not to mention they have to play Notre Dame this year too.
Oh,
So-
yay.
Yeah, that just put salt on the wound, I would say, right there. But yeah, my top team is Miami. Mario Cristobal, he's done great things, and I mean the Hurricanes have really stepped up, and honestly they could be a big contender to win the Natty this year. So
It's crazy how one good season can change our point of view of a coach, because 12
Yeah.
months ago we were just not saying this about Mario.
no, we weren't. That's the crazy part about everything.
I think someone said he was on the hot seat.
Yeah, like he
It might have been
definitely
me.
probably was.
I think it was you, Starks.
Yeah, I was
We'll have
like,
to go
nah,
back
like
and-
he might.
and see
This is
that.
gonna be a make or break season and makes it to the national championship.
There you go. He made it.
Absolutely. And Starks, I agree with you on the North Carolina thing. This whole the whole thing with North Carolina is just it's not panning out the way that they wanted it. It's just not good. North Carolina, they might finish down at the bottom spot. But there's also some other teams. Florida State, Gavin mentioned, Florida State has been on the ups on downsides. I mean, and I know you guys were thinking I was about to say on the upsides. No, they're completely going up, but the wrong way. They basically flipped everything and said, we're going to do this in reverse order. And the Florida State Seminoles, I wouldn't be shocked if they're in last place by the end of this year. I mean, they are just not good anymore. And
Never know.
And it's sad to see. Florida State and Florida used to be such a fun game to watch. Now it's going to be dismal. I mean, in that case, granted, we'll talk about the SEC on another day. But, yeah, that's just the one team that could also fall down. And then there's another with, Louisville. Louisville could be even down there in that bottom spot as well.
Whoa.
Getting close to it. So, you just never know. I know, that's my hot take this year. That's a big hot take. But I think it's more going to be Florida State down at the bottom than anything. I don't really think Louisville's going to finish down at the bottom, but you just never know. We've said that there's going to be teams in the top end that finished down in the bottom last year. So, I mean, it's just kind of one of those case 22 catches, but it's either going to be Florida State or North Carolina down at the very, very bottom for that. So, guys, it's the preseason top team and the last team has been chosen from us, and we're going to get away from the Big Ten and the top side for a moment, as we're going to see what Purdue athletic director, new athletic director, came in and said about this thing. Tommy McLeland, he was introduced as Purdue's new athletic director here today, but he already had some choice words, and not sure how we're feeling about that.
Every recruit, every current student athlete will hear this message repeatedly. We are here to win championships. If you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana.
So, as you guys could hear, if you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana. Indiana just won a championship. I don't know how you can say that, and especially of what Kirk Signetti had already done. already got a championship last year, undefeated season all the way through. How can you say anything about, oh, hey, if you want to win a championship, don't go to Indiana, especially after last season? Guys, what are your thoughts?
Well, especially since Purdue's pretty much been last place in the Big Ten in the last 2 years. And don't get me wrong, Purdue's got an incredible basketball program. You know, they've been in the NCAA tournament almost every season, but they were the 1 seed one year and they lost to the 16th seed. Like, you guys have not won a national championship recently. Like, you know, again, love their basketball program, but still not a national championship. So I'm not sure what he's talking about.
I am also confused. I know that when Brian Kelly came into LSU, he had his big spiel and kind of got mocked. And then Kurt Signetti steps up to the podium at Indiana and says, we're going to start beating Ohio States and Michigans. And you look at him sideways. So, maybe he's just so far into the future. He's seeing stuff that we can't even fathom, because that's the only thing I got out of that. Best of luck to Purdue, and I hope we get some more clips from the guy.
I hope so too, man. That would make our job so much easier.
First off,
cases.
that was cool that you brought up the clip. Props to you, our wonderful host, for actually throwing that in there, not just reading a quote. Mind blown. Awesome. Second of all, I'm going to say the same thing I told you guys this morning. It is crazy that you got the audacity to, one, not talk about, or to talk about the defending national champion like that. You have 5 total team national championships in your entirety as a university. 5. Now, I'll give the track team and the swim team and whoever won the individual national championships, I'll give them their credit, but they are not Purdue. That's not for Purdue to claim. You got 5 team championships, and I'm not going to say anything negative about women, but 3 of those are in women's sports. None in the football. And you're just going to say, oh, well, I mean, if you want to go, if you don't want to win national championships, go to Indiana. No, they're going to be poached from Indiana if they have any talent from you. So it was just crazy to hear a bottom team talk about who's going to be number 1 in the AP poll.
It's funny because we're sitting over here saying that Purdue's going to finish in the bottom of the Big Ten, right? And then these comments come out, which is why I put this in this spot of where, because I thought about putting it last, but I was like, you know what? This actually fits well, because I know we're going to be talking about Purdue finishing in the bottom half of, bottom of the season for football this year. But it is just crazy to even think about an athletic director coming in. And yeah, you're trying to build some momentum. You're trying to change things and say, oh yeah, this is Purdue. This is the new standard. But you can't even say that yet. You can't say, oh, if you want to win a championship, go to Indiana. Or if you don't want to win a championship, go to Indiana. You're sitting over here, they just won a championship. You can't use that reference. That was horribly timed. Now, if Indiana
There's a right
didn't
way to
win the
do it, and there's a wrong
championship-
way to do it.
Exactly. If Indiana didn't win the championship last year, perfect timing. But also, you got to finish more than the bottom of the Big Ten. I mean, in those cases. But I also agree to Gavin's point, because he might be seeing something that we're not, and saying, oh, hey, this team's going to be super good here in the near future. Just watch. And you just never know on that case in point. So, real quick, does anybody else have anything else before we move on?
Nope.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to move down once again, and we're going back to our Big Ten ACC situation. But this is the best coach. We've talked about Ryan Day. We've talked about Mario Cristobal, both on the Big Ten and on the ACC side. But there's so many other great coaches in the Big Ten and the ACC. Who is your best coach of the year scenario for the Big Ten this season?
I have Ryan Day. I really think he's really kept Ohio State consistent. He's he could end up being, one of the winningest coaches in Ohio State history, especially because he already has a national championship with Ohio State in 2024. So, I know they lost in the quarterfinals last season, but it was still a really solid Ohio State team. And, it seems like he doesn't have a Michigan problem anymore either. So I think Ohio State will defeat Michigan again, making Ryan Day, making his case even bigger. So I like Ryan Day.
Yeah, I think it's if you don't have Ryan Day 1, he's clearly in second behind Kurt. And as long as, Kurt and Ryan Day 1, 2, I think it's fun. Let's talk about the number 3 spot. Kyle Whittingham moves on over from Utah, but not only that, he brings his offensive coordinator with him. And if you guys recall last year, Utah made a huge amount of their yards from the quarterback scramble game, and they would draw up plays where the quarterback would go one direction, and only deep passes would be on that side of the field. Nobody in front of him. He could take off and run. Well, we know an overpaid quarterback that goes to Michigan and has the skill sets to absolutely thrive in this offense. And I think that might just happen with Bryce Underwood and the Kyle Whittingham team connection. I also want to give a shout to the quarterback whisperer, Lincoln Riley. I do think, he may not know the O's, but he knows the X's, He knows the offensive side of the ball. He might not know both sides of the ball, but he dominates his half of the game. And I believe his quarterback, even though they lost their number 1 talent with Lemon, he's going to be a Heisman contender, top 7 in the country. I believe that's all the coach I want to talk about. The Oregon coach, obviously Lanning, he's good, but he has 0 playoff wins as a home team or an away team, but he's been home twice, and that's pretty rough. If he does not get over the hump soon, he is going to be out of the big 5 coaches of the Big Ten.
Dan Lanning beat JMU last year at home for the playoff.
Fairs.
Yeah.
And I think Dan Lanning is the best personality coach, like up there. Like I love his attitude. I love the culture that he's bringing up there. But like Gavin said, the top 2 is Ryan Day and Kurt. It's just whoever's having the better season, you can flip flop them. But they are 1 and 2. They are the best. I do like the what Gavin said about Michigan's. I think they are going to be a lot better. Maybe not immediately in year 1, but year 2, Michigan's going to get back to being a powerhouse in the Big Ten. And then ACC. Are we doing ACC or are we just doing Big Ten?
Go ahead, bro.
I believe it's Rhett Lashley. That's the SMU head coach.
Yeah.
Yes, give me him. I am
baller.
very high on SMU this year. I think they are going to be either 2 and 3 in the conference
I agree.
behind Miami. So they stepped up big last year. They took that next step in the NIL game. They figured it out, and they got a pretty good team out of it. So give me Lashley for the ACC.
Yeah, no, there is SMU. I mean, we were talking about them, I think, almost every single college pick'em show, and some of them, they weren't even a part of it, and we were still talking about SMU.
Yep.
So we're definitely going to get to see a lot of SMU this year in that case. So obviously, you look at the top coaches, Kirk Signetti, Ryan Day, Dan Lanning, and Gavin even brought up with Kyle Whittingham because, I mean, he brought up a great point. Utah bringing in with the offensive coordinator, the scramble game. That is how Utah won most of their games this year, and that's going to be a big thing. But, I think there's going to be one coach this year that's going to outcoach them all, and I think this one's going to be Dan Lanning. I think it's Oregon's time. I think he has been able to coach the ropes, doing everything that he needs to do. But I would say co-coach of the year, if it happens, it's going to be with Ryan Day. As much as it pains me to say, I'm not an Ohio State guy. I can't stand the Ohio State. But those 2 coaches would not surprise me if they're co-coach of the year here for the Big Ten this year. Because They have such good programs, and Steven brought it up. It's the consistency of Ryan Day, but it's also the consistency of Dan Lanning and what he's been able to do. I mean, they went into a dogfight against Indiana, and all of a sudden, both teams going at it. Indiana's going to have an interesting side. Is Kirk Cignetti really a fantastic head coach? Because he doesn't have Fernando Mendoza coming up this year. Yes, they brought in a lot of different transfer guys to come in to help Indiana out, but that's going to be a huge key this year. Is what are the Hoosiers going to be able to do
So,
with Kirk
what would
Cignetti?
Indiana have to finish for you to be like, you know what, Kurt is the Big Ten guy?
Maybe top 3.
See, that's just a really high bar you're setting for
That's
an
what I'm
Indiana
saying. I
University.
think it needs, because he's only had what? This will be his second
He
year.
made the
Third year.
playoffs.
Third year,
He made the
excuse me.
playoffs his second year.
Yeah, second year makes the playoffs. Third year going in there. He makes the playoffs again this year. He has a big shot of saying, yeah, he could be the guy, because Dan Lanning, Ryan Day, they've made the playoffs numerous of times already. And but now that everything's expanded, it's all different. Everything has changed. It's a whole new ball game. But I really think it's going to be between Ryan Day and Dan Lanning. But I think Kirk Cignetti, he's going to find his way back up, and he could steal it from everybody. And I mean, he's just been that dude. And then if we'll move on to ACC best coach. We'll start off with Steven to get that off. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. I think Ryan Day or Dan Lanning, probably the best coach of the Big Ten this year. But Gavin, I agree. Kyle Whittingham and Kirk Cignetti, I think those two guys are no slouches, and that's definitely going to be somebody to watch out for this year.
I'm a huge believer in Cristobal. I mean, everyone was talking about. We mentioned this early in the podcast. Some of us thought he was going to be on the hot seat last season, and look what happened. It was like, angels in the outfield out there. Nobody expected Miami to make it to the national championship, and look what happened. And he's, I mentioned earlier, he was able to keep most of the roster this season. Malachi Toney, Mark Fletcher, Darian Mensah, the defensive line. I mean, he was able to keep a lot of veteran guys. And with the transfer portal era and the NIL era, it's super difficult to do that. I mean, most teams are having half their roster leaving and transferring somewhere else. So I love Cristobal. I love his style of coaching. And I think he's going to cruise his way to an ACC championship, and everybody else is going to be playing for second place.
That's a big thing. What about
Yeah.
you, Gav?
Mario's right now probably number 1, but I want to take this time to talk about James Franklin. What is going to happen with Virginia Tech? I have them sitting about 5th place right now in my predictions, but that would not be enough for me to think he's the best coach in the conference. I think he has to make the ACC championship to get back in the race, make Virginia Tech a name to be feared.
Or
If
at
they
least
don't
get
do
third.
that, yeah, I don't even think that's enough, though. How are you going to get kids to say, let's go to Virginia Tech over a rebuilding Florida State or a Duke that's going to give me the best player a bag and I'm going to get a good scholarship? Why would I not go to Clemson or Miami if I have the choice? So I don't think there's enough, Steve. I really, truly think the ACC is such a lower tier conference that if you're not the top 2, you're literally not being talked about by media. So James Franklin's going to have to sneak his way in there, but I think he can. I think he is a better recruiter than he is a coach, and I think Mario Cristobal just showed the entire world that is more important in the ACC. Because you're not going to tell me that Franklin and Mario Cristobal are better head coaches than Dabo, but you are going to look me in the face and tell me they are 10 times better recruiters in the NIL era, and that's nothing but a fact. And Franklin is going to put the money that he was given where his mouth has been the last 6 years and try to do it in the ACC. And I really think he's got the nice hand right now. He's got 2 queens, and you got 2 cards left to be flopped in the river.
Gavin, you bring up a fantastic point with that. I mean, James Franklin being on the ACC side this year is just weird. First off, it's weird not seeing him in the Penn State setup. So I think Virginia Tech got him a coach. I really think that James Franklin is going to do a great job there at Virginia Tech. Do I think it's going to be this year? I don't know, because as you said, it's the recruiting aspect of things. The NIL program. And then how everything has kind of grown in that ways, and Mario Cristobal has done a really great job about it. But I mean, James Franklin, he would be up there. But also, I would also agree on SMU side with Austin Starks, with Rhett Lashie, because my goodness gracious, I guarantee we're going to be talking about we're going to be talking about SMU throughout this whole thing.
They'll be top 3, I believe, as well.
Easily
They're
top
nice.
3. Yeah, we're going to be talking about them. But, and I know we're not talking hot seats and everything right now, but it's so weird that we're not even talking about a best coach situation with Dabo Swinney. Like, because of the NIL era, right? We used to talk and say, oh, yeah, Dabo Swinney, he is the guy here in the ACC. But as you mentioned, in the NIL era, it's not that case anymore. It's anybody who can recruit in the transfer portal, anybody who can have the money to pay for these guys has really helped, and that's what Mario Cristobal's doing. That's what James Franklin's going to do at Virginia Tech. I mean,
and I also believe that the NFL has showed us that coordinators are at an all-time high in value. It's not just on the head coach. Who the signal caller matters almost just as 100%. Much now as it ever has. And I also think that's why big schools with great head coaches like Oklahoma State, they just didn't have the coordinators as well. Like, it's the whole system. So
once Oklahoma State lost their DC of Jim Knowles, everything changed on that portion.
Yeah.
But I would have to go. Rhett Lashie is probably going to be my coach, best coach in the ACC. I think SMU is going to be up there in the top spot, but I'm not going to put Dabo Swinney down at the bottom. I think Dabo is going to be in the top 3 side this year. I think he can really change Clemson around this year. But it's all in the fact of, he did bring in some good guys out of the transfer portal this year. So we'll see. We'll see how Dabo Swinney and Clemson can roll. So, well, speaking of the Clemson Tigers, they have been one of the most overrated teams for the longest time now in the NIL era. We've been putting Clemson, hey, going to be back up in the top 5, and they just haven't been able to get back to that part. Then we go into the Big Ten. We've been putting Nebraska into the top 5, the top 6 in the overrated category. And this is the perfect introduction, because now it's time to talk about overrated and underrated teams. And we're going to do it all in the Big Ten to start off. I mean, who are the 2 teams that are overrated and underrated this season?
Yeah, my Big Ten, I think the overrated is going to be a little surprising for you guys, but my underrated has to be Washington. I am a big believer in Damon Williams. He's one of the most underrated dual threat quarterbacks in the country. You look at his stats last season, he completed nearly 70% of his passes, had over 3,000 yards passing, had over 600 yards rushing. I think he's the guy. I really think Washington is going to surprise people. The offensive line it's a veteran offensive line. You have the Hatchett brothers both coming back to the Washington lineup this season, and it's really a special moment for them because they played together in high school. I think they only played for one season because one of them is older, but they reunited last season with the Washington Huskies. And so it's going to be really cool to see, this veteran offensive line go up against the Big Ten. And the defense also has quite a few upperclassmen, and I think the defense will be fine again as well. And really, their defense wasn't the problem last season. The offense in the big games, like especially against Ohio State, the offense struggled a little bit. But like I said, this offensive line coming together, Damon Williams with, his passing game and being able to go on the ground as well. I think Washington could be one of those that could sneak in to the top 3, top 4 conversation. And really, you just look at their schedule. They avoid Ohio State. They avoid Michigan. They do have to play at USC. They have to play at Oregon. But I really think they could steal one of those games. I probably not Oregon, but USC could be a tighter game than people imagine. And you also said we're doing overrated. I have Penn State as my overrated, not because of the schedule. I know Penn State's got arguably one of the easiest schedules in the country, but that's just it. We're really not going to be able to see Penn State's true identity with the easy schedule that they have. Their three toughest games, they have USC at home, they have at Michigan, and they have at Washington, which I just mentioned Washington. I think Washington wins that game. You have Iowa State coach coming in. He brought in a lot of transfers from Iowa State. You have Rocco Becht. You have Carson Hansen. But it's a Big Ten gauntlet and no offense to the Big 12, but the Big Ten's on a whole different level. So I really think those three games we're going to be able to see what Penn State is like. But other than that, it's just hard to determine how good Penn State's really going to be. So they're going to be my overrated. I have them losing all three of the big games. So
All right. Well, I'll do my overrated first. And it's not that this team is coming into the season with a lot of hype, but it's more that I think their championship window is shut and maybe shut for a very long time. And that's going to be Illinois. For the last 6 years, Illinois has been a top heavy side of the Big Ten team. They've been constantly ranked in the top 20. They're constantly in good bowl games. They're constantly in the fight to make a Big Ten championship, constantly upsetting other Big Ten schools. And I think Indiana came and snatched their chain in that race to be a top 3 Big Ten school. And Illinois missed their window, and it shut on them, and they now have no chance to get back into that top 6 like they just were in the last 3 seasons. So I know they're not overrated this season, but I just want that to be like their franchise window has officially shut. For underrated, I did mention this earlier, but I'm going with Northwestern University. They did pick up a lot of Oklahoma scraps, and for someone who hates on OU, how can you look at me and say, well, you're being unfair because they used to play for OU, you hated on them, now they're playing for Northwestern, and you're saying they're gifts. Well, when you are looking to go 6-6 in the Big Ten, OU players will be just good enough to get the job done. And I think that's what's going to happen. First, you got Aiden Childs coming from Michigan State. I think he's going to take a step. They got new offensive coordinator Chip Kelly as well. Huge pickup for them. I know Chip can never win with UCLA, but we're in for new times now. Also, linebacker out of OU, Kobe McKenzie picked up. Then they got the running back Gavin Sawchuk, another pickup from OU. I think this team could get a little dangerous, maybe 7-5, 8-4 towards the top half of the Big Ten. And I just don't think teams are talking about them or people are talking about the Northwestern University. All right. That's all I got.
For my underrated, I gotta go Iowa. I talked a lot of crap on them last year for being such an abysmal offense, and it's because they were. And I'm 90% sure they fired the offensive coordinator and they're going in a different direction. A squirrel with a headset would be a better offensive coordinator than what they had last year. They're going to be trending up because that defense, I still believe, is one of. It's just not a team that you want to play in the middle of Iowa at 2:30, and they just always make the game a dogfight. Like the Oregon game last year, it was rainy, it was wet, it was muggy, and they just played knockout football. I mean, they still lost, but I think all of us were like, "Oh man, can Iowa do this?" Like,
And they played Indiana better than anyone else as well.
exactly. There was a lot of close games, and I feel like it's always like, "Oh, well, it's Iowa," but I feel like they're trending up. For my overrated team, give me Nebraska. I feel like their window is shut too, just like Illinois is shut. And if I'm going to throw somebody out on the hot seat first, it's going to be Matt Rule in that conference. I mean, you just lost your quarterback, even though he was mini Mahomes, like that was still way better than probably what you have now. And he came out and said, well, you got to have a $1 million quarterback to win games and everything. Well, you lost your one big shot at that. He was a high recruit. It was amazing that you got him, and then he's gone. So not that they're really rated high, but their window is shut.
I like it.
I like it indeed as well. All right, so I'm going to go underrated first, and this is a huge one, and I know you guys are probably going to think I'm crazy, but UCLA in the Big Ten,
I like it.
underrated.
I like it.
Jamestown head coach changing over, Bob Chesney moving over
Jamestown.
to UCLA. He added 40 transfer players this year. He included 10 of the former James Madison players, retaining the quarterback Nico Amaliva as well, which, maybe Nico needed a better coach in that instance. Maybe we're going to see a different Nico this year. Wayne Knight was the star transfer from James Madison who came in. He was also known as the premier bell cow, which is the back for the offense desperately lacked from last season. Jordan Davis, an offensive tackle. Then you have Aiden Mizzle and Samaje Morgan, wide receivers. UCLA, they're going to come out, and I think they can surprise some people. They only got 3 wins last year, and that was under the interim head coach and the offensive coordinator, the youngest OC that was out there for the longest time. So that was kind of cool on that. But I can't remember if he ended up getting hired as the OC on that spot. But that is my underrated spot. And, Austin, you bring up a great point with Nebraska. I think Matt Rule, I've always been so high on Matt Rule because of what he did with Baylor. He did such a great job with the Baylor Bears and how he rebuilt that program. And he just knows college athletes, and Baylor comes away with, a Big 12 championship in 8 years. And then he goes and coaches in the NFL of the Carolina Panthers. But it's just hard. But I also agree with Gavin on Illinois because – we've been seeing Illinois right there in the top 6 over and over and over again, but the time has come where that's just going to drop down. Northwestern, I like the underrated pick with that because a lot of the transfer spots, but Penn State, I as much as I love Matt Campbell and way he's done with Iowa State, I just don't think Penn State's going to be as high as what people think. I really don't. I think Penn State is going to be on that lower end. I think they're going to be overrated this year. I don't think they're going to be horrible, but I don't think it's going to be as good as what a lot of people are thinking this season. I mean, Rocco Becht, he's a good quarterback, but I don't think he's star for Penn State. Also, you're in the Big Ten now. It's a different ball game. It's a completely different ball game from what you were playing in the Big 12. So you got to learn that whole new system there. So I'm going to go Penn State as my overrated, but Nebraska is a very close second. I think it's win or die, as Austin said, win or die time for Matt Rule with Nebraska to try to stay in pretension to be the Huskers head coach. So quickly over to the ACC best coach, underrated, overrated teams in the ACC.
Chase, my underrated is Louisville. So pretty much opposite of what you said about the Cardinals, but they have probably one of the most manageable schedules out of anybody in the ACC. You have Isaac Brown coming back as running back. 2 solid years so far with the program. Probably I think he would have rushed easily for over 1,000 yards for the second straight season in 2025, but he missed the last 4 games due to an injury. But he had, I think, around 800 yards before he got injured. So easily 1,000 yards like he did the first season with Louisville. You also add Trey Richardson as wide receiver. Trey Richardson comes in from Vanderbilt, had 806 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. The offense for Louisville, was inconsistent last season, but like I said, you add Trey Richardson, you have Isaac Brown coming back leading the offense. I think it's going to be a solid offense. You also have the offensive line. Every starting offensive lineman this season are all upperclassmen. So this is a team that's learned a lot. They keep growing. You look at Louisville's schedule. I'm going to bring that up really quick. They do open up against Ole Miss, and I believe that's in Nashville. So that you got a neutral site game against Ole Miss. But I think the matchup between SMU and Louisville, SMU travels to Louisville. I believe that's on mid September, and that game, to me, the winner of that game, I think, is going to play Miami in the ACC championship. And Louisville having home field advantage, I think they defeat SMU with, again, veteran offense. Defense is going to be solid again, but I think the offense is going to take a step up. So Louisville is my underrated team, and Louisville avoids Miami on the schedule. So that's another big plus. Even though Louisville upset Miami, still helps to have a manageable schedule in the ACC. My overrated is the Clemson Tigers. Clemson is ranked 4th in the preseason ACC media poll. I think that's total nonsense. Number 23 in the coaches poll. The offensive line is a big concern for Clemson. Between the 5 starting offensive linemen, one of them is a redshirt freshman. This is projected starting lineup, by the way. The two of the other starting offensive linemen, they only have 6 starts between the two of them. So that's a big concern. The running room is also a big concern. Not a lot of experience there. I like the wide receiver room. You have TJ Moore and Brian Wesco both back. But other than that, this is the Clemson team that's really going to be learning a lot, really going to have to grow. And this is a big year for Dabo Swinney. Can he do it with this kind of inexperienced team? So it's a big year. And I think if he has another average season, could start being on the hot seat. So those are my 2 teams, Chase.
All right. Well, I love the SMU pick. I think all 4 of us have SMU as a top 3. Excuse me. I love the Louisville pick. And it seems like we all have SMU as the top ACC school as well. Louisville is my 3rd, Steve. I do think they're a top 3 team in the ACC. But as far as my underrated school, I am going to go with Wake Forest. Again, let's put this in the realm of the Northwesterns of the world. We're not looking for a championship with my underrated team. Are we going to beat the win total that Vegas has us assigned? 5.5 wins for Wake Forest. Guess what? They did it last year, and they're only going to be better this year. Wake Forest is avoiding the NIL route. They're not in it for the flashy names. They're doing it the Dabo Swinney way, except this time they're doing it with some fun. They're a team of passion and a team of fun, and that's what they've been doing. They have a strong culture fit right now, and they prioritize returning talent. That is where they put their money in. Everyone who outperformed their NIL price tag, guess what? At Wake Forest, they got paid to stay, and I love that. And I think you got a combination of player development, culture development, and coaching development all happening at the same time. That makes for a strong trio. Give me Wake Forest. All right, for overrated, a team we have yet to talk about tonight, give me Georgia Tech. I am constantly seeing them as a top 4 team to finish in the ACC. Their win total is at 9.5. That is absurd. Are you kidding me? This is their pickups they got and why people think they're so high. Oh, no, my thing went away. Give me 1 second.
All good.
So in the transfer portal, they picked up backup quarterback from Indiana. That is Mendoza. What's his first name? Alberto Mendoza, but also they recruited the best player off of Michigan, which is a huge pickup, Justice Haynes. And a lot of people have been talking about Haynes. Another star they got was Jaleb Mbakwe from Alabama. He was their second best cornerback last year. So you look at that, you think we improved at running back, we improved at corner, but you don't got Haynes King anymore. And although Haynes King was not the greatest quarterback in the world, he was a winner, and he played with heart, and he was the engine of that team, and that is gone. And I don't think you can replace that in just one season with a downgrade at quarterback and with no improvements to the coaching staff. So I do not see a world where Georgia Tech gets over 7 wins. I'm hammering the under. They are my overrated team.
My underrated team is going to be NC State. I think that they're just like Iowa. They're not really looked at very much. And they got CJ Bailey at quarterback, which I think is a top 3 quarterback in the entire conference. They took a little hit to the transfer portal. They lost Hollywood Smothers, but I think they're going to upset a lot of teams. I think that they are going to, not really run the conference. They won't finish as a top 3 team, but like Gavin said, we're not looking to win championships. We're looking to upset these big teams every once in a while and go over the win total. So give me NC State for my underrated, and overrated, I'll keep it short. It's going to be Clemson. I mean, I think every year they're going to be in that top 3 to 4, and I feel like just after what we've seen last season, there's no way that they got that much better, right? I mean, they were losing games left and right in an embarrassing fashion. And I don't think Dabo doesn't really use the transfer portal anyway. So what names are they really getting to ascend from last year? And I just don't see it, but I see them in top 3 and top 4 positions. So give me Clemson for my overrated.
The thing with Clemson, their downfall is that they started losing home games, and that's what they were
Yeah,
known for. They do
right.
not lose in Death Valley, but that's started happening last season. So great pick.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's been one of the huge things. You don't lose in Death Valley. You don't lose in Death Valley. And all of a sudden, that's been the case. And things have just changed. Well, I know a lot of people thought that I would say that my overrated is Louisville, but it's not. I think Louisville will be good. I just don't think they're just overrated right now. It's honestly in between with, as you said, with Georgia Tech and Clemson. I think those are the 2 teams that are really one of the most overrated teams because I mean, Gavin brought up Georgia Tech perfectly with, you just got Alberto Mendoza. He was the backup. You don't know what he does. You don't know how he's going to play. He was the backup to his brother, Fernando Mendoza. Now, if he's any like his brother, then yeah, he's going to be, good in that case. But you can't just rely on that one guy and then, yeah, they picked up some other good guys, but I just don't see it. And yeah, I'm going to go with them. I think Dabo Swinney and Clemson, I'm not going to say they're on the overrated spot, but they're like number 2 in the overrated category just because they have always been put up into that top spot. But Dabo Swinney is a winner a lot of times, and he knows how to win. Right now, it's just been a struggle bus due to the NIL and transfer portal and all this stuff. But if he can figure it out this year, I wouldn't be shocked that them being in the top 3, top 4 is actually going to come true this year. That's just going to be the case on that. But I think Georgia Tech is one of the most overrated teams in the spot. So my underrated team, though, this year, and it's kind of hard to say if it's, an underrated team, not underrated team. It's kind of your thoughts on it. But I would say more of Virginia Tech. I know we were talking about James Franklin and him being the new head coach at Virginia Tech and what he was going to bring to the table. But he's bringing a lot of guys with him that can change things quickly. He knows how to work the program. He knows how to work the NIL. He knows how to do the transfer spot. And this Virginia Tech actually could be a very underrated program this year that could make a huge leap and possibly be in that championship game with Miami. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, Miami's going to be in the championship game. We're all talking about that in that case, but it could be them with Virginia Tech, or it could be with them with SMU. And obviously, SMU is just so good, so we don't get to call them underrated or overrated in that case because they're just going to be up there. But that would be kind of my underrated pick because I'm excited to see what James Franklin will do, especially in this new era of coaching after, just getting let go from a Penn State team, which I still think Penn State was crazy on getting rid of him this early in that case. But, guys, well, that is our show. As we've gone through, we did our Big Ten ACC breakdowns. Next week. We are going to be going over our Big 12 and SEC breakdowns, as there is a lot of changes in the Big 12 and a lot of things happening in the SEC as well. So you don't want to miss out our show next week, as it is going to be a good one. And then also don't miss out, we're going to have an all-conference breakdown of all the other conferences we haven't hit. So we'll have the Pac-12 we'll talk about the Mountain West Conference. We'll talk about even the smaller conferences in the setup as well, and we'll have the whole list to break down on them. Now, we're not going to go fully deep with each one, but we'll have different criteria that we'll do for those. But it has been awesome. Steven, Gavin, Austin, it has been great getting back out and getting to talk with you guys again. But that's going to do it here for our Five Horsemen podcast. Once again, make sure to subscribe on our YouTube page. If you're not yet, go to Horseman Broadcasting on YouTube. Go to our Facebook, Horseman Broadcasting and Entertainment on Facebook. And then remember to find us on Spotify, the Five Horsemen Sports Podcast. Our College Pick'em show is going to be starting up here very, very soon. So you don't want to miss out on that, because we have a ton of fun on that. Think of it, College Game Day 2.0 in the case of that. So get ready for the College Pick'em show once again here on Horseman Broadcasting. Have a good one. Have a safe night. If you've tuned in to here on our nightly podcast, or if you're watching in the morning, good morning. Hopefully you guys had an awesome day throughout our podcast as well. Have a good one. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of your night.